Daniel was 10 years old when the sky changed color. He was playing near the fence at the edge of the colony settlement, throwing rocks at a metal target his father had made. The target made a good sound when the rocks hit it. Bang, bang. The noise was loud and it was fun. Daniel liked doing things that made noise. His mother said he was too loud, too wild, too much like his father. But his father just laughed and said that was good. Being wild meant you were alive. The sky turned purple first, then green, then colors that Daniel did not have names for. He looked up from his rocks and stared. The clouds were moving in a way that clouds did not move. They were being pushed aside. Something was pushing them. Something very big. The ships came down through the clouds like metal fingers breaking through water. Daniel had seen pictures of Earth before it was Earth. He had seen dinosaurs in old films. The ships looked like the things that dinosaurs might see if they looked up right before the sky killed them. Big and wrong and impossible. There were 3 of them. They were not fast. They were not slow. They came down like they owned the sky, because they probably did. The sound they made was not a sound from Earth. It was a sound that made Daniel's teeth hurt and made his chest feel tight. He should have run. Any smart person would have run. But Daniel was 10, and 10-year-old boys do not always do smart things. He watched. He stood there with his rocks in his hands, and he watched the ships land on the settlement. The impact shook the ground. Daniel fell down. His rocks went everywhere. He could see people running now. He could see fire starting in the buildings near where the first ship had touched down. This was real. This was happening. This was not a game anymore. Daniel ran. He ran toward the settlement instead of away from it, which was stupid. But his father was in the settlement. His mother was in the settlement. His little sister was in the school building near the center. His legs knew where to go even though his brain was screaming at him. He never made it. A beam of light came from the side of one of the ships. It was thin and blue, and it did not burn Daniel. It just held him. He was frozen in the middle of the road between the fence and the buildings. He could not move. He could not scream. He could only stand there and feel his heart hitting against his ribs like something trying to escape. A door opened on the side of the nearest ship. Ramps came down. Things came down the ramps. They were not like anything Daniel had ever seen. They were tall, and they had too many joints in their legs. Their skin looked like it was made of metal, but it moved like skin. They had eyes, but the eyes were wrong. The eyes were too big, and they looked at Daniel the way his father looked at things he was trying to understand. The biggest one came toward him. It made sounds. The sounds were not words, but they sounded like words. Like something trying to be words. The paralysis light went away, and Daniel fell down. His legs were not working right. He had been held up by the light for maybe 10 seconds, and it felt like forever. The tallest thing reached down and picked him up. Its hand was cold. Its hand was smooth. Its hand was nothing like a human hand. Daniel screamed. He screamed the kind of scream that comes from somewhere below thinking. He screamed because he was a 10-year-old boy and his whole world was breaking, and there was nothing he could do about it. The thing that held him made a sound. It might have been talking to the other things. It might have been laughing. Daniel could not tell. The world was too big and too wrong and too scary to understand anything. They carried him up the ramp into the ship. Inside the ship was clean. It was too clean. Everything was metal and light, and it smelled like nothing at all. The air tasted like being sick. Daniel tried to fight, but he was too small, and they were too strong. He tried to bite the hand that held him, but the skin was too hard. It did not hurt the thing at all. The thing just held him tighter and made more sounds. They put him in a room with walls that were not really walls. They were clear like glass, but they were not glass. Daniel could see through them, but something was keeping him on the other side. He pushed on them, and they did not break. He hit them, and they did not crack. He screamed and screamed, but the sound did not go past the walls. There was water in the room. There was food that looked like it could be food, but it did not look like anything Daniel had ever eaten. There was a place to sleep that was flat and smooth and wrong. Daniel sat down and he cried. He cried for his father and his mother and his sister and for Earth that was so far away. He cried because he was alone in a room made of light, and there was nothing he could do about it. The tallest thing came back later. Or maybe it was a different tall thing. Daniel was not sure. They all looked the same. It looked to Daniel. The big wrong eyes moved across him like they were reading something. Like they were reading all of Daniel and understanding nothing. It made sounds. Long sounds. Short sounds. Clicking sounds. Daniel did not understand. The thing made a sound that was almost like the human words. It said something that might have been food or light or stay. Then it was gone. Daniel sat in the quiet room. Outside the clear walls, he could see other things moving through the ship. They were doing things. They had jobs. They had places to be. None of them stopped to look at Daniel. He was small. He was alone. He was trapped in a cage made of light, and he did not know why. But Daniel was smart. Even when he was scared, even when he was alone, even when the whole world was wrong and broken, there was a part of his brain that never stopped working. That part of his brain started watching. It started listening. It started learning. The thing that had taken him thought he was fragile. It thought he was just another creature to study and understand. It thought that because Daniel was small and alone and scared, he would stay that way. The thing did not know what humans really were. It did not know that humans could adapt to anything. It did not know that humans could survive anywhere. It did not know that when you trapped a human being, you did not trap something that would give up. You trapped something that would think, something that would plan, something that would never stop fighting, even if the fight looked like peace. Daniel looked at his cage and at the ship beyond it. He looked at the creatures moving in the corridors. He looked at the lights on the walls and the strange machine that gave him water. And his mind. Even though he was scared, even though he was alone, a 10-year-old boy began to count and observe and remember everything he could see. The creature that had taken him thought it had captured something weak. It had made the biggest mistake of its life. 3 days passed. Or maybe 4. Daniel was not keeping track anymore. Time moved different in the cage. There was no night. There was no day. The light never changed. Daniel slept when his body hurt too much to stay awake. He woke when he was thirsty or when hunger pushed him to eat the strange food they gave him. The food tasted like nothing and like everything at the same time. It filled his stomach, but it did not feel like food. It felt like eating clouds. The tall things kept coming. They looked at him. They made sounds. They pointed at machines that made red lights come from the walls and scan across his body. The red lights were warm. They made his skin itch, but they did not hurt. Daniel watched everything. He watched the pattern of when they came. It was every 6 hours. He watched what they did. They always started at his head and moved down to his feet. They always spent more time on his hands and his heart. He watched where they went in the ship. There was always a door to the left, always a door to the right. Sometimes they went through the door on the left and came back after a long time. Sometimes they went through the door on the right and came back quickly. He learned the sounds they made. Some sounds meant they were happy with what they found. Some sounds meant they were confused. There were sounds that meant one of them disagreed with another one. Daniel did not understand the words, but he understood the feeling behind them. Feelings were the same whether you were human or tall and wrong. The one with the smallest eyes came on the 4th day, or maybe the 5th. It had a different shape than the others. Its body was narrower. Its movements were faster. It looked at Daniel for a very long time. Then it brought something into the cage. It was another human. It was a girl. She was maybe 8 years old. She had brown skin and black hair that was dirty and tangled. She was crying. The small-eyed one made sounds and then left them alone. The girl screamed. She ran to the far corner of the cage and pressed herself against the clear wall. She cried so hard that she could not breathe right. She made sounds like she was drowning, even though there was no water. Daniel did not move. He sat where he was and he let her scream. When she was done screaming, when her voice broke and she could not make sounds anymore, Daniel moved. He moved very slowly. He moved like he was trying not to scare an animal, because that was what this was. It was fear. She was scared the way prey animals are scared. He sat down near her, but not too near. He did not say anything. He just sat. After a long time, the girl spoke. Her name was Maya. She was from the school. The ships had come down and everything had happened very fast, and she did not know where her parents were, and she wanted to go home. Daniel told her his name. He told her that they were on a ship. He told her that the things that had taken them were not going to hurt them. He did not know if that was true, but it was what she needed to hear. He could see her fear, and he could see what fear did. Fear made you stupid. Fear made you weak. If she stayed scared, she would die. If she stayed scared, they both would die. He told her about the pattern of the lights. He told her about the time between the tall things coming. He told her that they needed to understand this place, because understanding made fear smaller. Maya slept against his shoulder that first night. She was warm. She smelled like smoke and fear. Daniel did not sleep. He kept watching. He kept counting. He kept learning. The small-eyed one came back the next day. It brought food and water, and it looked at both of them. It made sounds like it was talking to something far away. Then it made a different sound. A clicking sound that meant satisfaction. Daniel realized something then. The small-eyed one was happy. It was happy because now it had 2 humans. Now it could compare. Now it could study the differences. Daniel and Maya were not people to it. They were data. They were puzzles. They were problems to solve. Daniel also realized something else. The small-eyed one thought they were helpless. It did not think they were dangerous. It did not think a 10-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl could do anything at all. That was the mistake. That was the big mistake. Days passed. More tests came. More scanning. More times when they put Daniel in a special room where they took samples of his blood and put things on his skin and looked at him under lights that made everything look like it was glowing. Daniel answered questions when they asked them. He nodded. He shook his head. He pointed at things when they wanted him to point. He was cooperative. He was calm. He was exactly what they wanted him to be, that in his mind, he was building a map. He was learning the names of the tall things by watching how they called to each other. He was finding the places where the ship had damage marks. He was noticing which one of the tall things looked unhappy, like it did not want to be part of this work. The one that looked unhappy was named Kevin. Daniel knew this because he heard the small-eyed one say the name more times than the others. Kevin. That was a human name. Or at least it was close to human. One day, Kevin made a mistake. He left Daniel alone for 3 minutes and went to look at a machine in the next room. 3 minutes was not much time, but it was enough. Daniel saw the places where Kevin touched the wall. He saw which buttons Kevin pressed. He saw the order that Kevin used. His brain saved all of it. His body did nothing but stand very still and watch. When Kevin came back, Daniel was sitting in exactly the same place. Daniel was looking at exactly the same thing he had been looking at before. Daniel was a good boy. Daniel was cooperative. But Daniel was also dangerous. The small-eyed one came at the end of what might have been a week. It was excited about something. It was making lots of clicking sounds. It was moving fast. It put Daniel and Maya in a test chamber. It showed them pictures on a wall. The pictures were puzzles. It wanted them to solve the puzzles. Daniel solved them all. He solved them fast. He solved them in ways that the small-eyed one did not expect. The small-eyed one made sounds that might have been surprise. Surprise was interesting. Surprise meant that Daniel had broken what the small-eyed one thought was true about humans. That was the goal. That was always going to be the goal. Break their ideas about what humans could do. Show them that humans were more than they thought. Show them slowly so they did not get scared. Show them so carefully that by the time they understood, it would be too late to stop what Daniel was building in his mind. The small-eyed one left. It was going somewhere important. It took Kevin with it. For the first time since they had been brought to the ship, Daniel and Maya were alone for a long time. Not in the cage, but unseen. Unwashed by the tall things. Daniel whispered to Maya. He told her to remember everything about the ship. He told her to watch and listen and not be afraid. He told her that the tall things thought they were smart, but they were not smart. The way humans were smart. Maya asked him if they were going to die. Daniel looked at her. He thought about his mother and his father and his sister back on the world that was so far away. He said no. They were not going to die. They were going to survive. They were going to show these tall things that you did not cage a human being. You did not capture a human being and expect it to stay helpless, because humans were not helpless. Humans were honey badgers. And honey badgers did not accept cages. Not ever. Commander Vask was proud of his research project. He showed his data to Admiral Thrace with the kind of confidence that comes from not knowing what you are missing. The Admiral was the highest power on this ship. She made decisions about wars. She made decisions about which worlds were important and which ones could be ignored. She was the reason that humans mattered at all in the Vreth. Mind. Thrace walked through the observation room where Daniel was kept. She looked at the readings on the screens. Heart rate. Brain activity. Response to stimuli. Everything showed exactly what Vask had promised. The human subjects were displaying normal emotional responses. Fear, curiosity, confusion, the building blocks of a simple creature. But something bothered her. Something was wrong with the data. Not wrong like it was false. Wrong like it was incomplete. She asked to meet the human subjects. The children were brought out of the cage. Daniel was first. He walked with his shoulders back and his eyes open. He did not shake. He did not cry. He did not show the fear response that the other human showed. The girl Maya walked behind him with her hand on his shoulder. Thrace looked at the boy's face. She looked at his eyes. She had made many decisions about whether to kill creatures or to let them live. She had seen fear before. This boy had fear inside him, but it was not running his life. She asked him a question in the Vreth language, not expecting him to understand. He understood. Not the words, but he understood the question in her voice. He understood that she was asking him something. He understood that he should answer. He spoke in simple human words. He spoke about Earth. He spoke about the sun and the water and the wind. He spoke about his family. He spoke about things that had nothing to do with her question. But he spoke with purpose. He spoke like someone giving information, not like someone begging. Thrace felt something move in her mind. This was not a simple creature. This was something else. She ordered the observation area expanded. She wanted to see how the humans lived when they thought no one was watching. What she found was interesting. Daniel had organized the space with exact precision. The food storage was separated from the sleeping area. The waste area was far from both. The wall where water came from was clean and managed carefully. This was not accidental. This was thinking. The boy had also learned the guard rotation. Thrace could see it in the way his eyes moved. She could see it in the way he breathed. He knew when the guards came. He knew how long they stayed. He knew where they went afterward. How had the boy learned this? He was in a cage. He was being watched. Yet he had found patterns in a system made to contain him. Vask explained that the human was showing adaptive behavior. It was instinct. It was like an animal learning to eat at certain times, because that was when food came. Thrace did not agree. This was not instinct. This was intelligence. She ordered Daniel to solve a problem. She gave him access to a computer screen. She asked him to complete a task that required understanding multiple layers of logic. Not human logic. Vreth logic. The kind of thinking that a creature that could fly through space would need to do. Daniel took an hour. He solved it. But not the way Thrace expected. He solved it faster than the calculations showed it could be solved. He had found a shortcut. He had found a way that was better than the way the Vreth had designed. He had found a better way. Vask tried to explain this. The human had gotten lucky. The human had made a guess that happened to work. Daniel asked if he could talk to Thrace. She said yes. Daniel told her about a creature on Earth called a honey badger. He told her that the honey badger was small. It had no special powers. It was not the strongest creature in its world. But it never gave up. It never accepted that something was impossible. It attacked things 10 times its size, and it did not understand the concept of loss. He said that humans were like honey badgers. Thrace was not sure if the boy was threatening her or teaching her. She decided he was telling her something important, and she did not yet understand what. She increased the study program. She wanted to know more about this creature that could solve in new ways. She wanted to understand what made a human different from what the Vreth had thought. The small-eyed one, whose name was Dr. Kina, did not like the increased attention. She had been comfortable with her research. She had been getting the results she expected. Now the Admiral was asking questions. Now things were not simple. Dr. Kina made a decision. She decided that Daniel was manipulating the Admiral. She decided that the boy was trying to escape using words and stories. She decided to apply pressure. She removed the comfort items from the cage. She separated Daniel and Maya. She increased the testing. She wanted to break the boy and see what he was really made of. What she found was that breaking him did not work the way it worked with other creatures. When Daniel was separated from Maya, he did not cry. He did not rage. He waited. For 3 days he waited. Then he asked to see Dr. Kina. When she came, he told her that separating him from the girl was affecting the girl's health. It was affecting the data. It was making the research less accurate. If Dr. Kina wanted good data, she needed to put them together again. Dr. Kina did not know if this was true. But she did know that the boy was right about one thing. The girl's health had gotten worse. She put them back together. And Daniel understood something that no one on the ship understood yet. He understood that he did not need to fight them. He just needed to show them that understanding humans was more useful than controlling humans. He understood that cooperation was a weapon that was stronger than rage. Kevin saw this. Kevin had been watching the boy for days. Kevin had been noticing the same things that Thrace was noticing. He had been learning the patterns that Daniel was learning. One day, Kevin made a small mistake. He left a communication board on the edge of the cage. It was old. It did not work. But Daniel could see the symbols on it. Daniel looked at Kevin. Kevin looked at Daniel. Kevin understood that Daniel could understand. Kevin understood that Daniel was not helpless. For the first time, someone on this ship besides Thrace began to see what was really happening. The boy was not trapped. The boy was waiting. And when the time came, when all the pieces were in place, when he had learned enough and understood enough and planned enough, The boy would move. Dr. Kina felt like something was wrong. She felt like the ground under her thinking was becoming soft and unreliable. She pushed harder. She wanted results. She wanted proof that humans were what she thought they were. What she got instead was the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. What she thought they were, what she thought they were, what she got instead was the beginning of the yuan. And Daniel continued to be cooperative. But his mind was not quiet anymore. His mind was building something. It was building carefully and slowly, and with the patience that only a creature facing death could have. The cage had walls made of light, but Daniel was learning where those walls would break. And when he broke them, everyone on this ship would understand the biggest mistake they had ever made. The standoff lasted for 6 hours. Daniel sat in the middle of the locked section with his hands folded in his lap. Commander Vask stood to one side with his guards. Captain Victoria stood on the other side with her weapons trained on the boy. But no one moved. No one attacked. No one made the first aggressive action, because Daniel was telling the truth. He had compromised the systems. Kevin had helped him do it. The override codes were in place. One wrong move and the entire section would go dark. Life support would shut down. The ship would start to break apart. Admiral Thrace arrived after 40 minutes. She came through a different section, through passages that could not be locked. She stood at the edge of the containment field, and she looked at Daniel. For a long moment, she did not speak. Then she said something that no one expected. She said that Daniel was right. Thrace told the guards to stand down. She told Victoria to lower her weapons. She said that forcing Daniel back into confinement would accomplish nothing except disaster. She said that the time for that kind of thinking was over. Daniel's voice did not change. He said that he wanted guarantees. He wanted proof that they would not hurt him or Maya again. He wanted promises that went beyond this moment. Thrace understood. She understood that the boy had learned to think like a soldier. He had learned to plan ahead. He had learned that words could lie, but consequences could not. She offered him something else. She offered him a position, not as a prisoner, not as a subject, but as an advisor. She wanted to understand humanity, not through cages, but through conversation, through learning from the only human that the Vreth had ever really spoken to. Daniel considered this. He considered the offer carefully. Then he said yes, but with conditions. The first condition was that Maya would not be harmed. The second condition was that Kevin and the other workers who had helped him would be protected from punishment. The third condition was that he would speak to other leaders in the Vreth Collective. He said that humans deserved to be understood, not studied. Thrace agreed to all of it. The doors unlocked. The guards did not move forward. The weapons stayed lowered. Daniel stood up and he walked toward the Admiral. Admiral. He was a 10-year-old boy walking toward an alien creature that could kill him with a single gesture, but he walked with his head high. Thrace did something that no Vreth had ever done for a human. She lowered her body. She made herself smaller. She made herself less threatening. It was a gesture of respect among the Vreth. It was something you did for equals. She did it for a child. Over the next 3 days, Daniel spoke to every leader on the ship. He spoke about Earth. He spoke about human history. He spoke about ice ages and wars and famine, and how humans had survived everything and kept moving forward. He told them about Rome and Egypt and the Renaissance. He told them about the atomic bomb and how humans had the power to destroy themselves and chose not to. He told them about art and music and literature. He told them about the things that made humans valuable beyond just surviving. He told them about the honey badger again and again, because the honey badger was the perfect metaphor for everything humans were. The Vreth listened. The Vreth began to understand. Dr. Kina asked to speak with Daniel. She was afraid that she had made a mistake. She was afraid that she had been wrong about humans. She was afraid that her entire research was worthless. Daniel was kind to her. He told her that understanding takes time. He told her that she had been right about some things. Humans were emotional. Humans did have fear responses. But she had not understood what those emotions made humans do. She had not understood that emotion and logic could work together, that they made each other stronger. Dr. Kina listened. Dr. Kina began to cry. She said that she was sorry. Daniel told her it was okay. He told her that what mattered now was learning the real truth about humans. Not the truth she thought, but the truth that she would discover by listening. Within a week, the Vreth Collective had received reports from the research vessel. The reports said that humans were not simple creatures. The reports said that humans were complex and dangerous and valuable in ways that the Vreth had never considered. The reports said that the Vreth Collective had made a grave error. They had treated humans as subjects. They should have treated them as equals. Within a month, new policies were written. The Vreth Collective stopped capturing pre-spacefaring species. They started offering partnerships instead. They started sending researchers who wanted to learn, not to control. Daniel and Maya became the first human ambassadors to the Vreth Collective. They traveled through the Empire. They spoke to councils and leaders. They taught humans to the creatures that had thought humans were worthless. Kevin was promoted. He became a supervisor of human relations. The other workers who had helped Daniel were given better positions. The ship that had held Daniel as a prisoner became a ship of peace. Messages went out to other human colonies. Earth received word that humans had been discovered by an alien empire, and that a 10-year-old boy from a small colony had changed everything. Daniel was no longer alone. More humans came. They came as equals. They came to trade and to learn and to build something new. 6 months after his capture, Daniel stood on the observation deck of the ship. He was looking down at Earth, the blue planet that had made him, the world where honey badgers lived and where humans had survived impossible things. Maya stood beside him. She was no longer afraid. She was smiling. Admiral Thrace came to stand with them. She asked what Daniel was thinking. Daniel said that he was thinking about his family. He wondered if they were still alive. He wondered if they had heard the news. He wondered if they knew that their son had changed the way the entire galaxy saw humanity. Thrace said that the human colony was still standing. The Vreth had stopped the ship before it destroyed everything. Daniel's father and mother and sister were alive. They were waiting. She told him that he could go home if he wanted. Daniel looked at her. He looked at the stars. He looked at the impossible journey that had brought him here. He said that he would like to visit. But he said that his home was not just one place anymore. His home was everywhere, because humans belonged everywhere. He said that the honey badger did not fight just for one hole in the ground. The honey badger fought for the right to be wild and free and impossible. Humans were the same. The story of the human child who had been captured and who had changed an empire began to spread across the galaxy. Other species heard about it. Other species began to wonder what they had missed about humans. Other species began to change how they treated the young races of the universe. One 10-year-old boy, in a cage made of light, had done more with his mind than any empire had done with weapons, because he had refused to accept a cage, because he had refused to accept that he was weak, because he had lived like a honey badger and taught an empire to respect his kind. Years later, when historians told the story of how human relations began, they would start with the moment that the Vreth Collective realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had caged a child, and that child had burned down the walls with nothing but intelligence and hope and a refusal to give up. That was when everything changed. That was when the galaxy learned that humans were not weak. Humans were fire, and fire always wins. The first sabotage happened on a day that was no different than on any other day on the ship. Daniel asked Kevin to bring him water. Kevin came. While Kevin was opening the water port, Daniel asked him about the symbols on the communication board. He asked questions. Simple questions. Where does this symbol go? What does this one mean? How do you read the numbers? Kevin answered. Kevin was a low-ranked worker on a ship run by creatures that did not care about workers. Kevin had someone that wanted to listen to him, someone that wanted to understand. Kevin did not think about what he was teaching. He only thought about having someone to talk to. Daniel listened. Daniel remembered. Daniel understood. The next day, Daniel asked Kevin if he could see the maintenance tunnels. He said he was curious about how the ship worked. He said he wanted to understand the things that held him captive. Kevin said no. But then he thought about it. The boy was trapped. The boy could not escape. The boy was small and weak. What harm could it do? So Kevin brought Daniel a camera. A small camera that Kevin could control. A camera that Kevin could use to look at places Daniel could not go. Daniel did not ask Kevin to put the camera anywhere special. Daniel did not tell Kevin that he had memorized the ship's layout. Daniel did not tell Kevin that he knew exactly where the power distribution system was. He just asked Kevin to show him how the ship worked. Kevin showed him. Kevin sent the camera into the maintenance tunnels. Kevin showed Daniel the circuit board that controlled life support in Section 4. Kevin showed Daniel the backup systems. Kevin showed Daniel the places where the power could be cut. Daniel watched everything. His mind saved every image. His brain built a perfect map of everything he needed to know. Then Daniel got sick. He complained about his stomach. He said the food was making him weak. He said he needed real human food or he would die. He made it a problem for Dr. Kin. Dr. Kina put him in the medical chamber to run tests. The chamber was isolated from the rest of the ship. It had access to systems that regular areas did not have. Daniel was inside the chamber for 2 hours. He was not being watched the entire time. There was a moment when the technician went to get results from another room. In that moment, Daniel moved. His hands were small. His reach was short, but he could reach under the panel below the chamber. He could see the systems that made the chamber work. He could see the data lines that connected to the ship. He did not break anything. He did not destroy anything. He did something more useful than that. He made a change. A small change. A change so small that it would not show up unless someone was looking for it. He changed the readings. He made the medical system report that Daniel was sick when he was not. He made it report that Daniel needed special care. He made it report that Daniel was deteriorating. Dr. Kina came back and looked at the readings. She was surprised. The boy had gotten worse. The boy was failing, but the boy looked fine. There was a contradiction in the data. The readings said the boy was dying. The observations said the boy was healthy. This confused Dr. Kina. Over the next 3 days, Daniel made more changes. He used the maintenance systems that Kevin unknowingly helped him understand. He made small adjustments to the power grid. He made slight modifications to the sensor readings in Section 5. He created problems that were just big enough to be noticed, but too small to be understood. Captain Victoria, the head of ship security, began an investigation. There was sabotage happening, but it was not the kind of sabotage that made sense. Nothing was broken. Nothing was destroyed. The ship was functioning perfectly, but the readings showed small errors, small inconsistencies, and there was no one to blame. No one had access to the systems. No one had the knowledge to make these changes. The Vreth were the only ones smart enough to do this kind of work. They did not suspect the human child in the cage. Meanwhile, Daniel was doing something else. He was talking to Kevin. He was talking about what it meant to be on a ship where you had no power, where you could not choose your job, where you could not choose where you lived, where all your choices were made by creatures above you that did not care what you thought. Kevin listened. Kevin had never thought about these things before. But once Daniel made him think about them, Kevin could not stop thinking about them. Kevin began to tell other workers about the human boy. He told them that the boy was smarter than they thought. He told them that the boy asked good questions. He told them that the boy was making them see the ship in a new way. The workers listened. The workers began to think that it was a small rebellion. The smallest rebellion. But rebellion was rebellion. Dr. Kina decided to increase pressure on Daniel. She was certain now that he was trying to manipulate her. She stopped giving him privacy. She increased the testing. She wanted to break him and prove that he was just a simple creature trying to use intelligence tricks. That was when Daniel stopped being cooperative. He did not rebel violently. He did not attack. He simply changed. He went to the medical chamber and he touched more things. He made bigger changes. He created a system failure in the life support systems of Section 3. It did not kill anyone, but it made the air in that section become thin. People had to evacuate. People had to work hard to fix the problem. Captain Victoria ordered a full lockdown of the maintenance areas. But by then, Daniel had already made changes to 6 different systems. The Vreth security team looked everywhere and found nothing. There was no one to blame. No one suspected the child. Dr. Kina demanded that Daniel be moved to maximum security confinement. She demanded that he be kept completely isolated from everything. She demanded that he be kept away from any system that he could possibly access. The order came. Armed guards came to the cage. They brought a transport pod. They were going to move Daniel to the deepest security chamber in the ship. Daniel did not fight. Daniel did not scream. Daniel simply stood up and he walked toward the guards. Commander Vask came with the guards. He looked confused. His research project had turned into a problem. His simple specimen had turned into something he did not understand. Daniel looked at Vask. He looked at Victoria. He looked at all the guards with their weapons. He said one word. He said the override code that Kevin had shown him. The code that would lock every door on this section of the ship. He said it out loud so that everyone could hear it. The doors shut. All of them. The guards were locked with him. Vask was locked with him. Victoria was locked with him. Daniel's voice was calm. It was like Eistat. He told them that the systems were compromised. He told them that if they tried to move him, if they tried to force him, then everything would stop. Life support, power, navigation, everything. He told them that he knew where the override was. He told them that Kevin would help him trigger it. He told them that he was not a simple creature. He told them that humans were not weak. He told them that they had made a terrible mistake when they put him in a cage. And then he told them about the honey badger. He told them that the honey badger was the meanest creature on Earth. It was not the biggest. It was not the fastest. But it would fight anything. It would never give up. It would destroy creatures 10 times its size. He said that humans were like honey badgers. He said that the Vreth had made the biggest mistake of their lives. And in that moment, in that locked section of the ship, everything changed. The creatures that had captured him realized that they had not captured a human. They had captured fire, and fire always burned the cage that tried to hold it.